we understood how money worked, and we started saying, listen, we're going to change the world. We're going to show people why real estate is one of the best assets to invest in. And guess what? If you're not doing deals, if you're not buying deals, you should be investing into somebody else's deals.
We either do it right or
We don't do it at all.
we don't do it at all.
What is up, y'all? What's going on? My name is Chris Silva, and welcome to my channel. Today, I have a very, very special guest. Not only is this guy my business partner, but this guy has been my best friend. We've known each other for probably the past 17 years. I want to welcome you guys. I'm excited to share with you guys this journey that we've been on together, through the highs, through the lows. If you like what you hear, and even if you don't like what you hear, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and click the little bell on the side so every time we post, you get notified on our next guest and what we're going to dive into. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, first and foremost, I'm Benjamin Suarez, and I'm very excited to be here. I don't know how to introduce myself, but I'm a man of many talents. I'm a man of many talents, and I just love being alive. I love being alive. I love spreading love. I love spreading positivity. That's who I am as a person, and that's my intro.
I think one thing I always say is you'll never see this guy mad. You'll never see this guy mad. And it's funny because he literally just said that he's a man of love, which is very, very, very real. I think he's a special creature because you'll never see this guy upset. When you talk to him, he's always joking. He really thinks that the most difficult times are the funny times. It's like, bro, come on, let's get serious about what's going on. He's like, whoa, you got to control what you could control.
It's the truth. It's the truth. You just control what you can control. And it's like with any situation, whether it's a bad situation, what do you got to do? It's like get the positive out of that situation, whether it's a lesson, whether it's something that you can learn from it. And that's just the way my mindset has been, is just taking the positive out of every single situation. And it's like for us, a perfect example would be going through ups and downs, but it's like it's never kept us down. It's like we take the positive from each situation and we turn it into a win. You know, we might have lost, but what do we learn from that loss?
And it's crazy because, and I don't want to say it's crazy because now it's normal, but every time we literally understand we've been here before. Mm-hmm. How do we overcome it? Okay, we know where we're going. We know what we're going to do, but that's kind of like ahead of everything that I want to talk about today. So I want you to start with kind of growing up. What was it like to grow up as Benjamin Suarez from growing up?
Wow. Great question. Growing up, you know, I mean, I didn't have the richest family in the world. Thankfully, I didn't have the poorest family in the world either, but I mean, we did grow up poor. You know, I was raised in a tough, not a tough neighborhood, but tough parts around in the city here in El Paso.
What does that look like? Like, what does tough look like?
Tough is poverty. People being on welfare, people being on food stamps, people just making ends meet, and that's how I was raised. You know, I mean, I grew up with my mom. She was a single mother. She would work 3 jobs. Just to make ends meet. It was myself and my brother. And for myself growing up, I was always intrigued by sports. And I think that's what kind of helped me go along the path of positivity. But growing up, it was kind of difficult for my mom. Not only was she working 3 jobs to make ends meet, but there comes Ben, you know, wanting to join every single sport, wanting to have the flashiest things. I had like the shiny object syndrome. You know, it's like I would say, oh, if they have it, why can't I have it? You know, and like that was my mentality, like growing up. It's like, if they could have it, why can't I have it? But little did I realize, or little did I know, is my mom was working her ass off to get me the things that I wanted. I wanted them, but I didn't need them. you know, and I never understood that, as far as my mom literally giving me the best, putting her best foot forward, working 3 jobs to make sure that I had the team basketball shoes, because growing up, that's when I got introduced to basketball. And the coach required everyone to have the same shoes. And for me, they were $100 shoes at the time, and that was a lot of money back then when I was growing up. And I would cry and beg to my mom. I was like, Mom, buy me these shoes. Mom, buy me these shoes. It's like, if I don't have these shoes, I can't be part of the team. And I would just always be reiterating to her, like, I need these shoes. I want to be part of the team. I want to be part of something that's bigger than myself. And I just kept telling her, like, I need these shoes to be on this team. And she knew at the time, you know, if I get him these shoes, 1, he's gonna be playing sports. 2, he's gonna be out of trouble. 3, I mean, he's gonna better himself, whether it's his health, whether it's making more friends, whatever it was. Is she understood that, and that's exactly what she did for me. And for myself, I never really understood, or I never saw the sacrifice that my mom was willing to make in order for me to have everything that I needed to succeed in life. You know, it's something so simple, such as basketball shoes. You know, it's like, that's not going to make me successful, but that started the path into where I wanted to mold myself into what I wanted to be as a person, you know. And that's when I kind of identified, you know what, sports is not only my happy place, but sports has allowed me to build relationships with different people, to get more friends, to kind of stay out of trouble. You know, like when I was growing up, we did move around a lot. We moved from the Northeast to the East Side to the Lower Valley. We were kind of just always moving different places. And it was tough. It was tough for me, because I always had to make new friends at new schools. I had to.
How was that? How
people.
was like moving schools for you and trying to make new friends? I remember when I was scared of moving schools. Always.
To be honest, not that I was scared. I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal to go to a different school every single year, and that was like the mindset that I had. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to go to a new school next year. Oh, I'm going to go to a new school next year. Let me see how many friends I can make. Let me see how many people I can beat in basketball, football, baseball, whatever it was. Like, that grew my competitive nature also. But then I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal as far as like, oh, well, next year I'm going to go to a different school. Next year I'm going to be on a different team. Next year I'm going to meet new people. And I just thought it was normal. And I got to a point in my life where I realized that I shouldn't be moving, because I had asked one of my classmates. I had asked him, it's like, hey, well, how long have you been in this school? And he was like, oh, I've been here since kindergarten. What do you mean since kindergarten? I'm like, this is my first year in this school, and you've been here this whole time? He's like, yeah. What do you mean? And he's telling me, yeah, I've been here since kindergarten. I was like, oh, I just came from this school over here. Now I'm here. So it's like, what's next after here? And that was when elementary school started separating into middle school. And at that time, the middle school that I went to, they just got rid of 6th grade middle school, because you know how they add 6th grade along with elementary. Yeah. So at that point, I realized, you know, it's like, if I'm going to have to move schools, I'm going to have to go up a class, whether it's from elementary to middle school. So that's when I started realizing, you know, like, I'm going to need to go to middle school now. And at the time, my cousin was he was in a school district that I wanted to be a part of. Why? Because it's like, that's where all my friends were. That's where all my teammates were. And I wanted to move there. So that's when it kind of clicked to me. And I told my mom, I put my foot down, and I was like, Mom, I don't want to move schools anymore. Like,
what grade was that in?
That was 7th grade.
7th grade.
It took
were you getting into like a lot of trouble around that time? Like, and how was your household? Like, what was it like to live in a household like yours? How many people were there? And
I wouldn't get into
cousins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't get into a lot
of environment.
The environment was good, but I know what you're trying to say as far as getting into trouble. My environment wasn't the best. I did have an older brother. He was into drugs. He was into gangs. He was into just being a bad person. You know, it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and say my brother's a bad person, but he did make bad decisions, and that kind of, he would make bad decisions and they would come home. He would go out somewhere, make a bad decision, and then who's knocking at the door? Police are knocking at 1:00 in the morning, you know. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what did my brother do now? And for myself, it's like, I saw that, I saw that as a stepping stone to not fall into that trap, to not hang out with the wrong crowd.
Why?
And
Like how was that even possible for you if this was happening like
a lot of it was sports. A lot of it was sports. You know, it's like playing sports. I know I'm gonna avoid trouble. I know I'm gonna avoid doing this. I knew drugs were bad. I knew drugs were bad. I knew drugs either you end up dead, you end up in jail, or you end up somewhere where you don't want to be. And for me, it's like growing up, being surrounded by that, whether it was a neighborhood that I lived in one year or the next neighborhood I lived in the following year, is I knew areas were bad. I knew I had to stay away from that because that's something that my mom would preach to me. She would preach to me. It's like, don't do what your brother do. Don't do what your brother does. And for me, I was like, well, why? It's like, continue doing what you're doing. And at that time, it was like, again, every single year I would have to get new basketball shoes. So it's like, okay, if I can continue what I'm doing in order for me to get those shoes, I'm going to continue do what I'm doing to get those shoes, to stay out of trouble, stay out of gangs, and help myself in general.
so let's fast forward to your high school life. So you're joining sports, you're trying to stay away out of trouble. Obviously at home, like you're not poor, but you're not the richest person and you're just out there and you're kind of joining sports to keep you disciplined, I guess, and you're
Discipline, out of
noticing
trouble.
you're noticing like, hey, if I do this, I'll get my shoes every single year. Mom's hustling, mom's working. Let's fast forward into high school. What was your life like in high school? Transition, because that's when I met you. I met you freshman year. I remember that, and I remember I used to see you walking down the hallways. Tall, skinny guy. You were the tall guy in the hallway. What's up, man?
What's up, Chris? Yeah, fast forwarding to high school. That's when we met. But like at same thing at that time is like going from middle school to high school. It was a kind of a similar transition, but it's like obviously I already had my teammates, I already had my friends, but then it's like you meet a different set of people in high school. Why? Because you have so many middle schools just going into one high school. Obviously, me and Chris didn't go to middle school together, but that's where I met Chris in high school, and it was just it was cool. I think when we first met because we kind of knew who we were as people. It's like for me, it's like, oh, here comes Chris or here comes Monster yelling down the hallway. It's like he was just always the loud guy, and it's like why is this guy always so loud? It's like he just says how he feels, and that's something that I realized when I had first met you. You say how it is and you say how you feel, and it's like I could respect that. A lot of people can. It's like, oh no, he's just talking out of his ass. Oh no, he's just talking about nonsense, whatever it was. And it's like, but when people speak, whether it's from the heart or the mind, even if they're loud or if they're quiet, it's like you got to respect somebody that's willing to say it how it is. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people either wouldn't like me, wouldn't like Chris, or wouldn't like certain people is because it's like people don't want to hear the truth. And that's something that you do a lot is you speak the truth to a lot of people, and people don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear the truth. What do they want?
The bullshit. They want to be stuck on the
They
bullshit.
want to feel good, and it's like that's all they want to hear is like people don't want to hear the truth. They just want to feel good, and that's the problem. It's like, and for me, it's like I can resonate with you because it's like you speak facts, you speak truth. You know, and it's like if you're ever gonna say something false or misleading, you're not gonna say it, and I know that for a fact, and that's from going back all the way to high school.
So now in high school, as we built this relationship, we have a mutual friends, a lot of mutual friends. We start hanging out, we start creating this environment around us. I don't know if you remember, like, I mean, bro, it was we had some crazy times in high school, and we were always the crazy ones. We were always the ones that always wanted to do something out of the norm, and I think that's something that resonates with myself. Is just like, let's go over here, or let's go out of town, or let's ditch, or let's go throw this party, or let's, like, it was always the
I feel like we were always the pioneers. We were always.
Arr!
I feel like we were always the ones saying like, "Let's do this." You know. Oh well, what if we get in trouble? Well, then there's only one way to find out. You know. And it's like that's something that me and Chris have always had. It's like if we say we're gonna do something, it's like we're gonna do it.
Yeah, and I remember us really always coming up with all these ideas. I mean, even just the creativity. Like I
But
mean,
and that's exactly what I was about to say. Think about from when we started our creativity. Even though we weren't building a business or anything, it's like we wanted to do something that was different. We wanted to help our fellow classmates experience something different, which was whether it was something so little as
you remember
sweaters.
you remember the hoodies,
Those sweaters, yes.
the hoodies, and I remember that. I remember that I went to go make some hoodies, and since we were class of 2012, we put the shocker on them, the 1-2, and everybody, like, I remember, and this is crazy because I remember I'm like, look, I'm gonna get everyone's name. This is back before when it was called Twitter. I was like, I'm gonna put this. Twitter was a big thing back then. You used to text the number 40404 to send your tweets back then. You used to text, and then you would be able to turn on your notification when people would tweet. You would get that. And I remember I was like, I would put everyone's Twitter handle on there. We're gonna create this. I remember I created the graphic. I created the design. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get a list of everybody that has hoodies, that wants a hoodie.
But quick, before you get into that, is they had already gave us class hoodies. It's like
No, they hadn't. Remember, they hadn't yet. They were going to start, but that's the reason why I did it. And I remember I wanted to be like an action taker. Like, I knew I wanted to take action, but nobody was doing it. I remember, I think student council was in charge of that or something, and they hadn't yet done it. And I'm just like, bro, I'm going to create hoodies. I went, I got everyone's name, charged everyone at cost. I didn't make money off of this. Charged everyone at cost. Pulled it off, and I remember the principal saw it, and he was like, he called out a student, and they're like, where'd you get this from? I had all the hoodies in my car. I was passing them out, and they went and confiscated all the hoodies from my car, and I fucked up because I said, well, the hoodies are in my car. They had asked me to call me in the office where the hoodies, and they confiscated them. I guarantee you that those hoodies are still in the high school. Because I remember, like, I saw the principal probably like 8 to 10 years ago. Her name was Miss Borrego. And she always told me, she was like, Chris, you're going to be a hustler. Chris, you're going to be an entrepreneur. Chris, you're going to be somebody one day. And she knew I had that entrepreneur mindset back then. And she had told me when I saw her that those hoodies were still there 5 years after we graduated or something like that.
Now's our time to go make our money. They're vintage.
Bro.
Old Twitter handles. Think about that, with their old Twitter handles. And it's funny, before they confiscated them, I was able to get my hoodie.
You still have your hoodie?
I want to say I do, but it's somewhere lost in the archives.
I
want to say I do have it, though.
I still have mine too, bro, at Monster Double RTM.
At Ben's House. I still have mine's the same still at Ben's House 23 down at the bottom. Let's shock the world.
We're gonna shock the world, baby, and that's what we're doing. Is we're shocking the world every single day. And it's crazy to think. Remember, our class song is "Who's Gonna Save the World? Who's gonna save the world?" And it was like we're gonna shock the world. That's what it said on the hoodie. We're gonna shock the world. And guess what we're doing? We are shocking the world. Every day we wake up, we go out there with a purpose. And so high school, we get out of high school, and I think this is when we kind of pulled away from each other.
Not exactly.
I'm trying to remember that time between like
we didn't
the ages 19 to like 21. Like,
it was just bullshit. It was just random bullshit. Not that we pulled away from each other, but like our creativity like did diminish a little bit, because it's obviously like we wanted to do something creative to make something better. You know, we wanted to do that, but it's like after high school, after we graduated, that's when we just mess around, hang around with friends, go.
And that's what I want to talk about. So I remember at 21, that's when I got into the bar industry, and then you were working at Lowe's at the time. Mm-hmm. And during that time period, we started hanging out with a group of friends, and those group of friends we did everything with. We were the life of the party. Like, how many would you say was of us? Like
about 15, yeah.
About 15 of us, and we used to be like For Local Friday, or we used
like random stuff. For Local Fridays, and it's like, okay, what kind of trouble can we get into?
What kind of trouble can we get into? And it was always like party, Drink, 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 party, 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 drink, 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 party, 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 travel, drink, drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where a lot of it, like, we went out there. I would say we enjoyed it. I wouldn't trade it. I just wish I would have started a lot sooner where we're at right now. We would have came. I wish we could have became a lot serious a lot faster. However, I wouldn't trade it for the world because we created lots of memories.
Mm-hmm.
We created lots of memories, and I don't know if you remember the time that. So we're partying with these friends. We're going out. Let's talk about that a little bit. Talk to me about your experiences with us doing all that.
We were up to no good. We were up to no good at that point. You know, it's like just like you said, it's like I wish we would have kind of switched our mindset a lot sooner. But then again, I don't regret doing anything that we did, whether it was partying, whether it was wasting our time doing nothing. Is I don't regret it, but I don't hate it, but I do hate it. It's kind of like a love-hate relationship at this point, because it's like for us is we could have utilized all that time we're wasting of building a business because we knew we wanted to build something bigger than ourselves, but little did we realize we were just wasting time this whole time.
It's crazy to think, like, and I feel for anybody that's watching this, obviously they want to hear our story. They want to hear how we came to be, how we got to the position that we're at today, how we changed our mindset so quick. Like, and I don't even think it's quick on how we changed our mindset, but anybody that's watching this, they want to see how we started learning the value of time. And that's kind of what I want to jump into next is think about all those highs and all those lows that we went through when we were out there throwing parties, we're out there going out, having fun. And then the times that we would struggle, and then we went up and start building a business, and then we come back down, and then we go up and we start building a business, and we come back down. But one thing that we never did was we never stopped. We never gave up. We never gave up.
Never gave up. And I think the biggest thing on that is what I said earlier, is like taking the positive out of each situation, because we've been down, we've been up, we have highs, we have lows, but we never let the lows keep us down. You know, it's like if we built it up, we can do it again. But it got challenging at times. Not only one, we have people's lives in between, whether it's our friends, whether it's our family, and I think it got tough when we kind of decided it's like, you know what, it's like we're wasting our time, we need to do something different. It got tough, reason being, one, friends, two, family. Friends saying it's like, oh, you think you're too good for me.
I want to I think so. Before we get into there, I was leading up to that. Is let's talk about the time that when we first decided let's get into business, like when we're talking about building a business and how we decided to get into real estate. Like, where was that deciding factor, and when were we able to say, okay, like, this is what we're going to do? Like, how did it start?
That was a big question that I asked myself. It was regarding time. It was regarding time. At that time, I remember it was when you were in the bar industry and you wanted to get into real estate, and we had one of our other mutual friends. He was already in real estate, and that was when you were working on getting your license. And that's when Chris was telling me, it's like, work on getting your license. We could do this, we could do that, we can do a lot of things in real estate. Like, real estate probably the best thing that we can possibly get into right now. And I was working at the police department at the time, and I would just kind of think to myself, and I would just kind of replay and remember every time he would tell me, like, get your license. And I did have some interest before in real estate when I was in my teenage years, but then I was just kept thinking about it. Get your license. I don't know if you remember, it's like I would work at the police department. I would work 12, 16-hour shifts, and we had a house on the east side at the time, and I would just I took Chris's word and just like, okay, I'm going to get my license. I'm going to work on real estate. I would get out of 12, 14, 16-hour shift. We would go home, First thing I'm gonna do is just jump on my computer, study for my real estate exams, study for my tests, just doing everything.
Bro, so do you remember that time that like so we go back to that time of before we like I'm starting to work on my real estate license, and then you start staying with me, you start staying with us, the third person as well too. We start staying together, and at that time still like our bond became so much stronger. And I remember telling you, hey, get your license, like get your license. And you had told me, well, I had tried wholesaling before. We could do wholesaling as well too. And I remember, think about this. As wholesalers, quote unquote, I have my license already. You don't have your license yet. And we're like, we're going to start a wholesale business. I make a logo, same thing, the creativity of Chris Silva. Like I make a logo, I make this business card. And
I wish we still. I think it's still.
no, it's somewhere. It's still in the archives, bro. We make this business card, and we're gonna be wholesalers. We're gonna go lock up deals. We think it's very, very simple. Like we're gonna do this, and at the same time, I think you started working on getting your real estate license, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. You're already working, and I remember, bro, you were grinding. You were grinding, like literally, you were falling asleep. And I hope I could find this video of where you're on your computer, a picture, and we'll post it right here. And where you're falling asleep and you're literally on your computer working on your license. You took your test online. And we're like, bro, you could get your license. You get your license. What we'll do is we'll start a real estate group. We're going to start a real estate group. And this is what we're going to name it. This is what we're going to call it. Let's come up with the logo. Let's design it. Like we could be the best top listing agents in El Paso. Before that, we already had joined somebody else's real estate group. Mm-hmm. You remember? And then we got out of that, and then we're like, bro, we could do this. We could do this on our own. And I remember you've always had this hustle in you. And I think one thing that separates you from anybody else is you've always believed in me. Like you've always known, like and I've believed in you as well too. And I think that's what allows us to understand where we're going. And I think one of the biggest things that I always tell you is as long as our goal never changes, then we're going to be okay, because it's for the bigger purpose. And that's what happens with a lot of people is they don't have a goal. They don't set a goal. And you and I really sat down and we decided our goals prior to starting where we're at now. And we dictated this and we said for the next 5 years and for the next 10 years, this is what we're going to do. From here to then, we'll reevaluate. So going back to you getting your license, we start this real estate group, you're hustling, and then we start trying to become wholesalers.
We were kind of trying to balance two things at once. We were hungry. We were hungry at the time. It was like I remember it was like we would wake up every single day, whether it was 5 a.m., 6 a.m. It was like, all right, real estate. Let's do real estate. Are we going to wholesale? Are we going to buy? Are we going to list properties? It's like we're the best out there. And it's like once we decided that, once we told ourselves we're the best realtors out there, we're the best wholesalers out there, I think that's when everything switched, because it's like we owned up to that. It's like you got to become that person before you are that person. And I think that's what we did. It's like we're the best, we're gonna kill it, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and that's exactly what we did.
And I remember as we were starting our company, this real estate journey was when we shifted our mindset, we're going to be the best real estate agents. I had the opportunity to get the biggest listing here in El Paso, 311 Camino Estancias. And I remember that came through a referral of TTP, talking to people, like putting myself out there and understanding people. And literally we attracted that. I was able to do that. I'm like, bro, at that point, I remember I'm like, I sold the most expensive house in El Paso. Let's grow, baby. Let's grow.
Nobody could tell you anything at that point, because it's like we manifested that. We were able to say, it's like, hey, I remember we would use that as our credibility for everything. Yeah, we sold the most expensive house here in El Paso, and we feel that we can do the same for you.
Yeah. So going back to. So we're there, real estate agents. We end up moving to our business partner, quote unquote, at the time, ends up buying a house. We get into the house and we're living together. There's three of us living together. Mm-hmm. And we are hustling. How can we grow this?
Hustling.
But we're hustling at the same time, though, we're trying to look for the instant gratification. The partying, the having fun, the taking trips, the going out. Like, we were hustling this much versus what we knew, what we could actually do. Because I remember we would wake up, we would work.
Our schedule was from like 8 to 1.
8 to 1. We would work, and then we would play Madden. We were like, what are we going to do today? What bar are we going to go to? What club are we going to go to? Let's go here. Let's go there. And we weren't serious about where we were going at that point.
There was no exit. Like, there was no exit at that point. We were just trading our time for money. Like, literally trading our time for money at that point. We never saw an exit. We never came up with a plan. We never came up with goals. And I think that's what, once we realized that, that's when we took it up a notch. But that's for later. And I remember at that point when we were living on the west side, that's when I was doing my research. You know, it's like, for me, I'm always researching what's the next best thing, what's the next biggest thing, what's going to make me a millionaire by yesterday. And I remember looking, I was just doing research online where the real estate market is shifting, where the real estate market is going. And I just kept seeing this word, these 4 words, Airbnb, A, B, and B. And I was just like, what is this Airbnb, air, bed, and breakfast, whatever it was. I would just kind of read into it. And that's when I think it was Brian Chesky. I think he was the owner of Airbnb at the time. That's when I started telling you guys. I was like, guys, it's like we have a nice house here on the west side. It's like, in order for us to maximize or get to the next level, I think this is what we need to do. We need to put this house on Airbnb. We need to make money. That way we can go on to the next one. We're going to have this house pay for the next house, so on and so forth.
I remember this moment so clearly. Because I remember we were like in the middle area. There was like this middle area of the house. And I want to say that we were playing Madden, and you came out and you're like, bro, there's this thing called Airbnb. It's a short-term rental. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't get it. What do you mean Airbnb? What the hell is Airbnb? And also at the time, we also had started a moving company. We had done 1 or 2 moves, but like, we were entrepreneurs in this hustle. But I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't understand is the amount of sacrifice that it's gotten us, that has allowed us to get to where we're at today, is like sacrifice, sweat, tears, like everything. And I think we make it look so easy on a daily basis, but this is the story that they don't see. This is the hustle that they don't see. This is the backstory. So I remember you were telling like Airbnb, and we're like, bro, what the hell is Airbnb? And then we pitched it to the next person, which is our business partner at the time. And he's just like, well, what do you mean? Like, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Like, understanding it.
We were scared.
And we were scared. The scarcity. And so as we continue to do some more research, I remember like you were doing all your research on it. You're like, bro, this will work. Look, we move out. And I remember your thought process. This was Ben's thought process. It was like, we're going to turn this one into an Airbnb, a short-term rental. And then we're going to move into another house. We're going to move into an apartment. We're going to have this house pay for this house. And then we're going to save that money. And then we're going to go to the next house. And then we're going to save those 2 monies. And then we're going to go to the next house. And it was a domino effect. So at that point, I remember, okay, this guy's onto something. But it was going to take, how long was it going to take for us to make this happen?
As long as we wanted to. But we knew we had to make a move. We knew we had to do something. And that's exactly what we did. Is we left all of our furniture. I remember we were still decorating at the time. We're like, oh, I mean, remember I put a poster of myself in my room. And we're like,
bro, that was a badass poster.
It was a badass poster. And I was like, well, what if we just leave it here? They don't know who it is. But we decided not to leave it there. We decided to furnish it with something else. But I remember we were furnishing it at the time, and that's when we had moved out. We moved out of this house, and we moved into a 4-bedroom apartment in the northeast El Paso.
Hold on. So before we jump there, I want to let's talk about the time of how long it took to convince our third partner, the property owner, our best friend. This was another best friend at that point. That was like a best friend. It was us three. We're like, we're gonna take on the world. We already started our real estate group. We already had started the real estate group. We're like, okay, cool. And this was the agreement. Half of our commissions were going to go into the business account. This is what we're going to use the business account to go open up an office, to continue to scale our real estate agent business. And we get to keep half. So that way, that would be our spending money. But half of whatever we sell, we're going to put it into the business account. And that's what's going to help us grow. Do you remember that? Do you remember how we all had this vision?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how we all had this, like, let's do this? Like, we were committed to growing that real estate agent company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember we were committed to that. But then going back to your question of asking, it's like, how long did it take for us to not decide or convince anybody? I think it took longer than it should have, because it's like, for us, it's like we saw the vision, we saw the goal, and it's like, if we see the vision, we see the goal, we got to attack it. We got to go for it.
Got to do it.
Like,
got to do it. I think scarcity comes into a lot of people. There's a lot of people that scarcity and they don't believe in themselves. People really do not believe in themselves, and that's what the procrastination is. And you and I had seen this already. We're like, bro, this is going to work.
mm-hmm.
This can work.
Do you remember the first booking?
Bro, oh my gosh, when we got booked, it was like $2,000 or something like that, wasn't it?
2,400.
20, yeah.
I like 5 or 6 days, right?
And we're like, oh my gosh, we got to get out of here. What are we going to do? Which then there's this video that I have recorded. And we're like, okay, we could either, one, move into an apartment, or two, we could go buy a house through seller finance. And I was like, we could go find a house for $5,000, $10,000 on seller finance. And again, our other business partner at the time, our old best friend, is literally telling us, no, you can't do that. Who's going to want to sell or finance you for $10,000? And in that video, I show, and I'm like, oh, well, there was a person that was selling a house for $10,000. Oh, no, you can't do that. It was always, no, you can't do
illegal.
that.
No, you can't.
You can't do that. Nobody's going to sell or finance you at $10,000. It was the naysaying behind it, which made us believe maybe it's not possible. Maybe we can't do this. So at that point, I remember we're like, what do we do? Let's move into another house. Let's make a move. And at that moment, we made the move. We were looking for an apartment, I believe.
Yeah.
Or did we already have Wallington? Were we like, let's move into Wallington? Wallington is another house that...
oh, no, yeah. That was... we had gotten the first booking, and that was when I was already in communication with Joel.
Okay.
And that was when we're like, okay, obviously this works.
So tell us the Joel story. Like, who is Joel?
Joel, he was obviously we were agents at the time, and Joel was an investor that I was working closely with, and he would buy 15, 20 properties from me every single year. And that was at the time when we had gotten that first booking already, $2,400, and that covered the mortgage. I want to say that covered the mortgage.
Wait, hold on. So Joel would buy these properties, and you so happen to represent him on one, right? Or a few?
Yeah, I represented him on a few transactions, and at the time it was we had put the property on Airbnb. We had gotten our first booking, and he was still looking for properties to buy, and I would show him houses every other weekend or so. Say, okay, I like this one, I like that one, I like this one, I like that one, and that was when I would ask him questions, because obviously he's buying 15 or 20 properties a year, and I would ask him questions like, hey Joel, how are you buying all these properties every single year? And he would kind of tell me, it's like, oh, well, I'll either do seller financing, or I'll take over somebody's payment, or I'll finance somebody else. And to me, at that point, I would be like, what is seller finance? What is taking over somebody's payment? What is all that? So I would kind of ask him questions, and then he would ask me, like, how are you doing on your business? What is it that you're doing? Where do you see the real estate market going? And obviously, I'm his agent, and I would educate him on things like that. And that's when I had told him, I was like, well, actually, I don't know if you've heard about Airbnb. And he was like, no, I've never heard of that. And I was like, oh, well, this is what we're doing. It's an air bed and breakfast. You leave a house furnished and you get bookings. People come, they leave, you get it clean. Somebody else books, kind of like a hotel, but a full house. I was explaining them to him everything.
Think about Airbnb, how crazy that is.
That is, yeah, it's pretty wild. But I was explaining it to him, and then that's when he kind of got intrigued, and he's like, oh, how is that working for you? And at the time, we had gotten our first booking. Time passes, maybe I think it was like 2 months later.
No, it was before, because we were still living there in that house.
It's because it all happened fast. So it might have been 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever the case was. It happened fast because we started getting bookings. We were probably one of the first people in El Paso to have our properties on Airbnb, so we started getting bookings.
But what I want to go is like when we're trying to make the transition into what we were gonna do. Were we gonna rent a hotel? Were we gonna move? But you had asked Joel to rent out one of a friend's property.
No, well, that's where I was gonna get to. So that was when he was asking me questions. He would ask me, he's like, how is the Airbnb doing? And then I told him, I was like, oh, obviously we had gotten our first booking, but now we're getting booked constantly. Like every week we're making $2,000, $2,400 on these bookings. And he was just shocked because he's like, obviously this is a new trend in real estate. And he was shocked because it's like, I've never heard of it. It's working. You're doing it. And at the time he actually had a friend that owned a property there in the Mission Hills in the O2 area. He had a friend that owned a property and it was abandoned. She was a hoarder, and she
like
was
3 years it was abandoned, or several years, right?
They had like 2 or 3 years. It was just abandoned, and she would just have all her furniture like from years, probably like from the 80s. Like everything was dusty. Everything was like, it was just old furniture. And he told me, he's like, well, I mean, if Airbnb is working for you on your other house, what do you think about turning this one into an Airbnb? And that's when I had told you guys, it's like, hey, I think we got our next Airbnb. We went to go walk the property, and that's when we had the box truck. And I think we still had our furniture inside the truck when we went to go check out the house.
Yes, I remember. I got in trouble for not helping because I was showing a property, bro. It's the craziest thing to me. But anyways, I think at that point we already had found an apartment then.
Yeah.
We were staying at these apartments that were like college apartments. They all had their own restroom. They all had their own bedroom. It was 4 of us. Now 4 of us, we actually moved in our gym trainer with us at the time. We were able to move in our gym trainer. There was 4 roommates. It was 4 of us all together. And then we move into this apartment and we downsize, and we're like, okay, we need to downsize. We need to make this sacrifice. And a lot of people told us like, well, you guys are moving out of this nice house to move into an apartment. Like, that's crazy. And we're like, this works. This is going to work. And I remember you telling me, bro, this is going to work. We were committed to Airbnb. We get the one on Wallington Street. We pick up this rental, and we're like, okay, it's all 3 of us in business. And we're like, okay, we're each going to get a house. And then we're going to continue to grow. And at the same time, we're still managing our real estate clients, our sellers and our buyers. So that's where I was talking about that I got in trouble by one of my business partners that was upset because I wasn't unloading furniture, but I was showing a property. So I remember this very, very clearly. And at the time, I had bought I was working on the first flip. And I was like, okay, I'm going to turn Paseo into an Airbnb. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I remember us talking about I remember I had told you, bro, what if we create these experiences? And I think I talked to both of you guys about it. I was like, what if we create this Star Wars house or a greenhouse or a Lego house, and we create these experiences? And I remember telling you, and you were nodding your head. It was like, yeah. And then the other person's like, no, that's dumb. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's ridiculous.
Shooting it down.
And I remember very clearly this imagination that I always had. And to me, I think that's one thing that I'm a visionary, and you help me bring it to life. Like, I'll sit here and say all these crazy ideas, and you're like, okay, how do we do it? How do we
this is how we do it.
Like, let's work it backwards. So then we move in, and then as we're working on these houses, we then realize that, like, walk us through that time of the February area, February time frame where things start getting rocky, and I start telling you like, hey, bro, there's something going on here, and like, let's walk me through that time.
That's a sensitive topic right there. It's a sensitive topic. Just kidding.
It is, though. It is, because it's just so real, and a lot of people really don't understand the amount of emotions, the amount of time, the amount of effort, the amount of money, the amount of belief that we had in somebody that we believed had our best interest at all times.
I think that was one of the shittiest parts of our life that we went through.
Bro, oh my goodness.
It was probably one of the shittiest parts of our lives, but it's like going back to the beginning, it's like that helped us learn and grow into who we are today, because if that would have never happened to us, we wouldn't be sitting here in these chairs, because that allowed us to be who we are today. But going back to the shittiest moment in our life, I remember you telling me, it's like we all go to the bank, we form our LLCs, but then Chris tells me, it's like, hey, we're not going to be part of the bank account, or we're not going to be part of the LLCs. And I'm like, okay, yeah, like what's the issue? What's the problem? He's like, bro, I don't think you understand what I'm trying to tell you here. It's like, we're not going to be part of the bank account. We're not going to be part of the LLCs. And us being in business, us being best friends, and I'm just looking at Chris like, no, you're crazy. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, we're not going to be part of the business. We're not going to be part of the bank accounts. It's like, that's our business partner. That's our best friend. We got to trust each other. We got to do this. We got to do that. And I'm just brushing it off to Chris. I remember specifically, like, bro, like, something is up, something is wrong. And I would tell Chris, like, bro, no, shut up. You're crazy. Like, no, nothing's going to happen. Shut up.
And the reason why I was able to identify this is because I was in a previous business relationship. And when you're in business with somebody, you have to understand that that is a marriage. You are married to that person. So when I was in the previous businesses I was in, I had been there already. So when I'm telling Ben, like, listen, bro, they don't want to make us part of the bank account. They don't want to make us part of the entities. He doesn't want to make us part of the LLCs. Ben was nonchalant about it and was like, bro, we're good. This is our best friend. Like, we're okay, bro. Like, we're going to be fine. Like, we got to trust the guy. I'm like, no, bro. Like, I don't think you understand what kind of a big deal, because when I'm asking him, like, hey, are we going to be? He's like, yeah. But kind of brushing it off. And I'm like, bro, what the heck? Like, there's no way. That was red flag for me. And I told you this. And this happened sometime in February. And then March, April-ish, I remember I kept telling you, bro. And keep in mind, we all lived together in the same apartment. We were with each other every single day. We were going out. We were partying a lot. We were having fun. And then all of a sudden, this guy stops coming around. Stops hanging out with us. We met with this person one time, and he had a conversation with you and I, and he told us, listen, guys, you are not performing on the real estate traditional side. You guys need to get it together, because you are not performing on the regular traditional side. And Ben, you have a complaint. And Chris, I don't know what the hell I was doing. I don't know what it was that I was doing wrong. You're not working hard enough. And you have to understand that our work ethic today has always been as hard as we work. If not, we work even harder now. But back then, we were hustlers. And I remember at that time, he told us, you're not doing good enough. You guys need to pick it up. And I told you, like, something's off here. We're not part of the accounts. We're not part of the entities. We're not working hard enough. And he's not hanging out with us no more. Something is up here.
And then there goes Ben again. Shut up, Chris. We're good. We're going to be all right. Just brush it off. And that was probably one of the dumbest things I could have told Chris, because, like, he was right the whole time. He was right the whole time. And I don't know if you want to talk about when we spoke individually.
Yeah, so I remember this moment. So fast forward, I want to say it happened towards May, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Several months come by, and all of a sudden, we get another phone call. We're building out our office, this office that we all put half of our commissions into. Yes, we were probably short some money, but there was never communication of like, hey, we're short money. We need to pay more contractors. So that way we could figure it out together. And when you're in a partnership and when you're in business with somebody, you have to understand that communication is the key to it all. When it doesn't matter in your relationship, doesn't matter in your marriage, doesn't matter in your business, communication is going to be the most important factor to having a successful business relationship and whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So walk into this new office that we're building. It's just like, hey, bro, listen, you're not performing. I'm going to decide I'm going to do Airbnb by myself. You can do your own Airbnbs, but you can do Airbnb by yourself. And at the time, he had the opportunity of going out there and probably doing six rental arbitrage because someone in his family had owned these houses already, and we had told him talk to that person so that way we can turn them into rental arbitrages. He saw this as an opportunity to go out there and do it by himself. So he tells me, Chris, listen, you're not performing on the real estate side. I don't think this is a good fit. You could do your own rental, your own arbitrage. However, don't worry about the company no more. This is the real estate agent side. He's like, don't worry about the company no more. Log out of all the social medias. You're no longer part of it. I'm going to continue to charge you 50%. You're no longer an owner. The moving company, I don't care about it. You could do whatever you want with it. And then I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do Airbnb by myself. You could do your own houses. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm not going to be part of it. He's just like, yeah, like you're not part of the business no more. Log out of everything. Don't worry about it. Just go out there and help buyers and sellers. You're not good enough is what he said in other words. And I walk out of that office. I'm like, bro, what the heck just happened? I saw this coming though. I saw it coming from a mile away. And I remember that I drove out of there and I said, I'm not going to call Ben. I'm going to wait till Ben calls me. I drove out of there. He had told me he didn't talk to Ben yet. And so we kind of take a step back. I am driving and I'm just like, oh gosh, this is happening again. You got to keep in mind, and I was in business previous to this, so I knew what was going to come. I knew this based on the actions that were happening. So then I'm driving and all of a sudden I get a call from Mr. Benjamin. Ben calls me. Ben, how does that conversation go?
Wasn't the best conversation. And I remember it's like, you were the first person I called. I was pissed. And I remember I called Chris. First words I said, I was like, bro, what the fuck? And for me, I knew for myself, is like, I knew not that I fucked up, but it's like, I knew I should have trusted Chris. I knew I should have trusted my instinct. I knew I should have trusted that gut feeling. I knew I shouldn't have brushed it off, because it's like, it was a plan that was ready to destroy us. And that's exactly what happened. And it's like, 1, we're not on the bank accounts. 2, we're not on the entities. 3, they don't care about the other business. And I just couldn't put it all together. So it's like, I'm talking to Chris on the phone. I was like, bro, like, what did he tell you? And then he's asking me, what did he tell you? And we're kind of going back and forth. Like, he's literally telling us the same thing, that we're not good enough. And it's like, I remember that's when we were working on Paseo, and we go to the flip on the east side, and you guys can picture this 2,500 square foot house. You know, it's like half remodeled. It's still concrete on the floor. There's no carpet anywhere, but it's like, there's just one room that has carpet. One room that had carpet. And I remember me and Chris, we go into that room and we sat down on the carpet.
By the window.
Right by the window. The only place in the house where you can actually take a seat, because like everything else is concrete. Everything else, there's nails, wood, blah, blah, blah. I remember the only room with carpet, we sit down and we just look at each other, and we're defeated. Like, we're defeated. We're like,
bro, super defeated. Like, I mean, defeated. Like, the biggest thing is right here, we're defeated to the point where, what do we do next? We literally just got robbed, point blank, unable to do anything at this moment. All our money gone. Everything that we invested, gone. Our hard work on the Airbnb, gone. The moving company, gone. Office, gone. At this point, we have nothing but ourselves, each other. We're sitting there on the carpet, and we're having a conversation. What do we do next? Our next 5 moves. Read that book. That's a good book by Patrick Bet-David. But our next move, we're like, bro, what are we gonna do? Like, we're gonna need to move brokerages. And I remember you were trying to tell me like, no, well, we could stay here. We'll just separate from the group. You remember that? Yeah. And I'm like, no, bro, we got to pull far away. So one thing that I feel that we missed is before we started the Airbnb, we stopped hanging out with our friends because we started becoming serious about what we were doing. And our friends started telling us, you guys are always working. You guys don't care about us no more. You guys, all you care about is work, and you don't even hang out with us. You don't even call us no more. And we started becoming serious about what we were doing. Do you remember that?
I remember specifically.
We started becoming serious about what we were doing. So then we're sitting here in this empty house and we're like, bro, listen, bro. We got to do everything right. I know we can do this. We're going to move brokerages. We're going to start our own real estate group, and we're going to go start Airbnbs. But we're going to be different. We're going to do everything that we said we wanted to do. I want to create these experiences. I said, Ben, listen, the only way we're going to do this is if we do this right. We're going to be 50-50 on what we do, and we're going to make sure that everything's in the best interest of the business in our future. This is going to be our next play for the next 5 years. We had specifically said 5 years. This is going to be our next play for the next 5 years. We're going to start our own real estate group. We're going to find a brokerage where we could just hang our license. They'll allow us to start our own group. And then we're going to start Airbnbs. We're going to go do the Star Wars house. We're going to go do a pink house. We're going to go do a hype house. We're going to go do a hype house. We're going to go do everything that we set out to do. But the only way we're going to do this is if we do it together and we know where we're going. This is the goal.
And it's like, I remember those conversations specifically because what we said, it's like, and this is how you know we've actually had these conversations, because what I said at that point, it's like, we either do it right or
we don't do it at all.
That I remember specifically. It's like the conversations that we're having, it's like, one, we either do it right or we don't do it at all, because it's like, doing it right, we're going to do it. Not doing it, it's like we're going to end up in the same place where we're at here. So it's like, we do it right or we don't do it at all.
And so we're sitting there, and then we're like, okay, cool, let's go find a brokerage. We're finishing up Wallington Airbnb. We're gonna get ready for that. We're finishing the flip. We're finishing Paseo, and then we're starting to do this, and we're starting to go. And what happens is, I'm trying to remember exactly, we go find a brokerage to hang our license. We're starting the Airbnb. We're finishing Wallington up. We're finishing Wallington up at the time, and then we go back to our apartment. And keep in mind, we all still live together. All 4 of us still live together. Remember, we had to go back and see this guy. And I remember we were in my room, and he walked in and he apologized to us. He said, I'm sorry. But I don't think he really understood what had just happened, of the amount of destruction he did to us, because we believed in him. We believed that we were one. We believed that we had each other's back. For whatever reason he wanted to do that, I mean, it destroyed us. But what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And that's exactly what happened. So we're sitting there. He then tells us that he's going to move out, so that me and Ben have to finish off this lease. And we go, and I tell Ben, and we had this conversation. I said, listen, Ben, anybody that associates themselves with this person, we need to get away from. We need to get away from all the negative energy. Ben, do you believe in energy? Ben's
1,000,000%.
Ben was like 1,000,000,000 trillion%. I believe in energy. I'm like, listen, bro, the only way we're going to be able to pull ourselves out is we need to find new environment, new people, new energy, because anybody that surrounds themselves with this guy is going to bring that energy towards us. We lost every single friend. We lost every single friend. Anybody that we could imagine that we used to hang out with, drink with, party with, go on trips with, we stopped talking to them all. And anybody that associated themselves with this guy, we definitely stopped associating ourselves with them because we believed in the power of energy, law of attraction. We didn't want to attract bad energy. So we continue. We go out there. We start My Experience Matters. We're going to do this, and My Experience Matters happen. So My Experience Matters, we leave the house, paseo, go back to the apartment. I remember having this conversation with you. Okay, we got to go find a brokerage. We call and go meet a broker. We talk to the broker. We let him know the situation. We tell him our goals, what we want to do, and then we're in the apartment. And do you remember when you told me, bro, we need to get out of this apartment? Like, we're not meant to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just felt like we were in a position that we shouldn't be in. Not in a position, but like in going back to the energy, it's like that energy was off. That energy was like, we need to get out of this like place. Like, even though like that person already left, it's like it was just bad energy like still. So it's like, let's get out of this. Let's push the reset button. And that's when we had gotten out of the apartment and we got a beautiful condo downtown El Paso. Do you remember? I remember I was, because I knew that we had to get out of there. I knew we had to get out of that bad energy. So that's when I decided on myself, is like, you know what, I'm gonna start looking for places. I'm gonna start looking for the next place of where we're gonna move. And I remember I sent a video to you and Robert, and you guys saw the video. I was like, oh, that's badass. Where is that? And I was like, I don't know. Just looking on the MLS, and I toured this condo. This is how much it is. Do you guys like it? Yes or no? And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get
it. I remember the price. So I'm like, bro, why are we gonna spend that much? And you're like, bro, we deserve this.
That's true. We're in a. How much were we paying at the apartment?
I don't remember. We're paying like $500 or something. I don't remember each.
Yeah, each. I think it was like $1,400 or $1,500 that we were paying in the Northeast in a small apartment. And then I remember I sent it to you guys, and I just, why not?
It was like $2,200 or something like that.
$2,500. It was $2,500, and I'm like, why not?
I'm like, bro, you're crazy, and we're not gonna pay that. And
we paid it.
We move in, and this is where the next journey starts. I remember we took a picture on the couch, and we're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go out there. We're gonna start. We started our own, same thing. We started our own real estate group. Started our name, started our branding, started the back end, and we're finishing the Airbnbs. We did the La Casita house first, and then we are doing the Hype House. We start painting the Hype House. Let's talk about that real quick. Like the Airbnb side, I don't think a lot of people realize this, but we painted most of our houses when we first started. We did the work. We did the artwork. We painted the Just Do It. We painted the Hello Babe. We painted like... There was certain things in these houses that we created based off of imagination.
They wanted to discredit our imagination. Oh my gosh, who did this for you guys? And we would always look at each other. What do you mean, who did this for us? We did it.
We built this shit, bro. We created this. We made it. We brought this mind down to a pen and paper, and we drew it on the wall, bro. We created that. So now when we did this, we're already living in the condo, and we're like, bro, we need to do more. There has to be a way to do more, because I remember we're talking about Airbnb, and it's just like, okay, if we do 2 of these a year, we're only going to make X amount of dollars. And I remember we were talking, okay, if you produce $2,000 per house, that's $4,000 a month, $4,000 times 12. I remember we did that math. $4,000 times 12, $28,000 a year. Okay, $28,000 a year. If we're doing that every year, by the time we get to $1 million, we're gonna need to be doing this for the next 20 years. How do we fold time? And again, we had lost all our friends. It was just you and I, and we were like, our roommate at the time, he owned the gym, he was a trainer, and he was in and out. He was out there hustling on his business, and we're just like, bro, we need to get serious about what we're doing. And we became serious. And then we started what happened next? We hired a transaction coordinator.
We hired a transaction coordinator not only to focus on the real estate side for us because we knew we wanted to do more, and we were either doing Airbnb and we wanted somebody to kind of take care of our transactions on the real estate side. But then we were asking ourselves, it's like, what's next? What's next? What's the next big thing? And what year was it? I don't remember the year, but going back to it's like, okay, obviously everyone learns from YouTube. Everyone learns from somebody else that's doing it better. And I remember when you came up to me and you're like, bro, this guy Pace Morby, have you seen him? Have you seen him? And I was, at the time, I was like, no, like I haven't heard of Pace Morby. He's like, yeah, he's with all these other people. And I remember I recognized one of the names you had said. And I was like, yeah, I've heard of that guy, but not of the other people. And then that's when you were just shoving it down as far as like, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to do creative finance. And to me, it's like creative finance. When I first heard it, I was like, that sounds scary. Creative finance. What do you mean creative finance? And then going back to when we first started our wholesaling business, like you could buy properties with zero cash, zero credentials, zero credit or whatever. Oh, you mean wholesaling? No, not wholesaling, creative finance.
I remember that conversation. It was more like when I first discovered what creative finance was. I remember watching Pace Morby on a Sunday service with Brent Daniels and Jamil. And I saw them and I'm like, what the heck are these guys doing? And I remember Pace talking about this and I was intrigued and I didn't know. But I saw what he was creating. I saw what he was doing. And at that point, I was like, wow, if these guys can do it, why can't we? And it's not to discredit them. It's not to take away everything that they've been through. Hearing their stories, hearing everything that they've been through, and seeing what they were creating was like, we can do this too. And I remember we ended up getting an office in the same building at the top. Little office, probably about 500 square feet. We knew we needed an office setting because we were working in our kitchen, working on our couch, on our computers, trying to get listings, trying to do what we did. And at that point, I remember I became super dedicated to this YouTube channel. I became super dedicated to YouTube University. And I think a lot of people dive into YouTube University, but they take no fucking action. A lot of people really take no action when it comes to YouTube University. And I said, I don't want to be the person that doesn't take no action. So what did I start doing? We started watching. We started implementing. We started talking about squatting up. I remember going onto social media and I said, listen, I'm going to do 50 deals in the next 50 days. Who wants to buy 50 houses with me? I remember getting DMs like, bro, what are you talking about? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? And at the time, I really still didn't understand how I was going to do it. But I knew it was doable. And the energy, putting it out there to society, doesn't mean I'm a fraud, doesn't mean I'm a fake, doesn't mean I'm false for putting out what I wanted to do. And that's what people fail to use social media for. They look at social media and they want to be like, they want to do it to impress people. They want to do it to look cool. They're scared of what people are going to think. Learn social media as your dream board. Go out there and like, I want to do this. And you're able to go back and watch these videos. And I still have that video and I still go back and I've seen that video before. And it's just like me on the rooftop of our building saying, I'm going to do 50 deals in 50 days. Who wants to squat up with me? And just thinking about that moment, in those 50 days, we did 0 deals. We did 0 deals.
0.
But I was so committed to making sure we were going to do a deal. We didn't do a first deal for our first 6 to 8 months. And when it happened to us, a creative finance deal, it happened.
That was it. That was like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Once it happened. And it's funny, while you remember, while we were kind of like diving into YouTube, looking at a bunch of videos, we were learning creative finance, subject to seller finance, all that stuff. And then remember, we met another gentleman that told us about another product, and that's how we were able to lock up our first deal.
Yeah, the second or
No, the DPA.
oh, yes, bro. Wow. Wow, the power of talking to people. We ended up meeting somebody in that was doing
Oh, actually, when we had COVID, remember?
bro, oh my gosh.
We were working on
So we
the
were
retro
working on the
house.
retro house, and guys, I want to make it clear that a lot of people don't know this, but when we were working on our Airbnbs, we would actually practically move into these houses. We would stay there day in and day out, literally wake up, painting the rooms, designing, offer up, Craigslist, looking for this. There was a major sacrifice to build out My Experience Matters. And a lot of people don't see this when they only see the glamorous side of it. So a lot of hard work and sacrifice went into building these Airbnbs. And during COVID hit, we started looking for cash buyers. We had a deal or something.
No, that was when we were looking for cash. Yeah, I think we had a deal and we were trying to sell it. We were looking for cash buyers. And then what I did is I went to my contact list. I went to my phone and I just typed the word cash, because I would just save people of like how I would remember them. And they're either cash buyer, buys cash, maintenance guy, AC guy, insurance girl. So I would just type in my phone cash, and I was literally calling every single person on my phone that had the word cash. And then for some reason, I just had this random number with a random guy. Let's call him Tom. It's like Tom Cash. I call Tom. I'm having this conversation, and keep in mind, guys, at the time did you have COVID also?
Yeah, both had
We
COVID.
both had COVID, and it's like we're
stuck,
still-
and we were stuck in the house.
we were
bro.
stuck in the house, like we couldn't go anywhere. The whole city was on lockdown, so we're like, we need to do something. It's like let's get to work. Let's start calling people. Let's move this deal, whatever it is. Search on my phone, Tom Cash. Hey Tom, this is Ben. And to be honest, I was transparent with him. I told him like, hey, I have this deal. Honestly, I'm just calling people that I have saved under my phone that have cash. I decided to call Tom Cash. What's up, Tom? You buying any real estate? He's like, oh yeah, I'm always buying. He's like, why don't we meet up? I was like, oh fuck. Why don't we meet up? Oh shit, I have COVID. Why don't we try to set something up for the next week? And then you remember what we did or no?
Yeah, bro, we showed up with our mask and we showed up with Clorox wipes. We're like,
The
oh,
same
shit,
day.
this is super illegal. This is
same
when
day.
fucking the government had all this crazy shit going on with COVID. You be careful, you're gonna kill people and shit. And we're like, bro, this guy wants to meet us. But we got masks, right? We got Clorox wipes. This is our first deal. It's happening now. It's happening right now. We got to seize this opportunity. And we went and we met with this guy and we ended up building a relationship with him. And we're like, wow, this guy is doing everything that we're learning from YouTube. This guy is making it happen. Wow, let's do more with this guy. And then we start telling this guys our goals. Listen, bro, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to do 100 deals. We're trying to make this happen. We got the lead flow. We figured out how to get leads. We know how to do leads. We're squatting up with people. We're teaching people. We're showing people. We're doing a Zoom call. We're talking about what we're doing. We're hosting a Zoom call every night. We're attracting these people. These people are out there doing deals. We're building community. And I know we could bring the deal flow, but we don't know everything about this. Can we do deals? And can we give you these deals? And can we do these deals together? We had value for this guy. And this guy specifically didn't have deal flow. He had a family, a big family, and he's just like, listen, guys, I see your guys' vision. I'm on board. Let's make it happen. So then we start doing it. We start getting this momentum, and all of a sudden, this guy stops performing. He couldn't keep up with us.
Pressure. The pressure was on him because obviously we were sharing our goals with him. It's like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Let's go. A week, 2 weeks. It was like,
I would say we gave him like 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4. Yeah, because remember he
even came to the office.
Yeah, he had his office on the east side when we had ours downtown.
You guys could use my office, bro.
And then every time we would have a deal, we're on the east side. Like, hey, what's up? Hey, can we use the office? Oh, I'm not in the office. I'm out here doing this. I'm doing that.
I'm with the family, bro.
And it's like, okay, like we said, we're gonna set out to do this. Why aren't we doing it? And it's like, you're just holding us back at this point. You're just like holding us
He
back.
started falling back. But he did teach us a lot. It was the craziest thing, and we had value for him. And this is what I always tell every single body: if you ain't got no value and you try to take, you're never going to be successful. You want to go out there, you want to provide as much value as you can, and guess what? It's an even value exchange. So it's you give value and you get value, and you're able to grow and help each other accomplish more. And this guy, we gained value from him, and we're giving value, but the value stopped. The value giving stopped. So we had to decide what we wanted to do, and we ended up kind of just continuing what we were doing. And we went out there and we started learning more creative finance. We started teaching more people. We started building community, and we started attracting more people into our energy circle. And that's how Chris and Ben started out to start doing bigger things, going out there. We came up with a goal to go out and change the world. We said, listen, if we could change our life, we could teach other people how real estate is going to impact their life, whether they're doing deals or whether they're investing in deals. And one thing that we learned is we learned how money works. A lot of people don't understand how money works, and we learn how money works, and we're like, bro, it's not how much money you can make, it's how much money you can move. See, people save their money. If you have saved money in the bank, guess what? Your money's burning. Your cash is burning. The banks do not pay you interest, but yet the banks are taking your money and they're lending it out, and they're making interest off of your money. That's why in today's world, if you go try to pull out $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 from the bank, guess what? They're going to make you wait to pull out that money because they ain't got the money. They're out there lending the money, and they're making money on your money. We understood how money worked, and we started saying, listen, we're going to change the world. We're going to show people why real estate is one of the best assets to invest in. And guess what? If you're not doing deals, if you're not buying deals, you should be investing into somebody else's deals. Ben, let's go change the world. Let's go make an impact on everybody's life. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Creative finance has changed our life, and it could change yours. I think we need to go for a part 2.
Definitely.
There is so much more that has happened in our life to get us to the moment that we are today. It's ups and downs, but at the end of the day, as long as you don't give up on yourself, as long as you don't give up in the people that believe in you the most, as long as you don't give up on the goal, as long as you don't give up on what you set out to do, you can fall, but you can't fail if you never give up. Go out there and start believing in yourself and understand that you too can go out and do big things, because me and this guy, we're going to continue to change the world, and we're going to continue to do everything that we can to help you. Make sure you follow, make sure you like, make sure you share this with somebody. If you gain something, share down in the comments what your takeaways are. What else should I ask Ben? What else should Ben share with us? What else you would like to know about Mr. Benjamin? Because we are going to do a part 2. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the little bell on the side to get notified every time we post. And who else you would like to see on this podcast? Anything else you want to share before?
I'm excited to share the remaining story with you guys. So be sure to comment, like, subscribe, and we will see you guys on part 2, where we get into the nitty-gritty stuff.
Let's grow, baby! Woo!